Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Strangers and Exilers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Toyrex, my co-host, Daniel Toyrex Sr.
Hello, everyone, and God bless you all. God, Yahweh, God, Jesus, God, not Buddha or none of those other things.
Amitabha or whatever.
No Amitabha and Mikasa. No Amitabha here. Dude, you're getting sick, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, dude, you're out of this world with the Hinduism. I mean, they invented NASA millions of years ago.
Apparently.
All right, you got on board. Oh, another thing, I just happened to look up. There's 3 Buddhist temples here in Homestead.
Oh, nice.
We have varieties now.
Yeah.
And I looked up the one that we were going to go to. They're Theravada. So like the southern Indian and Sri Lanka. So.
Okay. They have like the Chinese and the Japanese ones too, or no?
The other 2 don't have websites.
Oh.
So I couldn't verify. Yeah, but it is.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. Well, before we get into it, please like and subscribe and share the video if you find this stuff interesting or you want to learn more. Be able to share it to your friends if you find any of this, insightful to be able to know about the other religions of the world other than Christianity.
You become a hat guy.
Yeah.
Like now you're all about the hats. Mm-hmm. I used to be a hat guy when I was young.
Oh, okay.
I literally always wore hats, but then I grew out of it. So, yeah.
I mean, I wear it for work, so I just kind of like, and my hair is getting long, so it keeps it back.
Yeah, it keeps it tidy.
Mm-hmm. So last week we ended off with some of the acts that they do, and the last one we did was giving, and then now we're going into more of the specific teachings called the precepts.
Yeah, it's all related to giving. Just so you know that Satan himself has still a grip on me and my health. But I'm getting over it now. But now he's getting sick. So, it is what it is. So, yeah, if you hear a cough or any of those things, I apologize in advance. In regards to now they kind of break down the actual giving, like what it is, what does it mean? And like everything else that we've been going through in this religion, it just seems like they have to like over explain everything. But then some other kind of, for what I would consider very important things, they don't give you any explanation. But then on some of these other things, which once again, all of it has to do with works. It is all works related. And this is, once again, this just breaks down the works, the giving in a very systematic way. All right. So basically they have what they would call virtues or precepts here. On a basis of developing dana, the dana is the giving, the act of giving, the trying to live a life that is focused and centered around giving. The Buddhist cultivates moral virtue by observing ethical precepts, the most common of which are the 5 virtues. The avowal of each of these begins, in other words, before you say these virtues, you say, I undertake the rule of training to abstain from, and then they say the virtue. Hold on, give me a second. So what are these 5 abstentions? What is it? So I'm going to say it fully. I'm going to do the first one. I undertake the rule of training to abstain from onslaught on living beings. Now, just so you know, out of the 5 precepts, this is the most important one. Like for them, this is like literally as I was reading through this chapter, most of the chapter was on that first one. And then the other 4, they kind of just like. So the first one is not killing anything, right? The onslaught on living beings. It could be anything, a person, a mosquito. Once again, I don't know how they do when they cut grass over there in India. But that guy is a murderer. Okay. The second one is taking what is not given. So in other words, the first one is thou shalt not kill. The second one is thou shalt not steal, The third one is misconduct concerning sense pleasures.
So no adultery.
Thou shalt not commit fornication or adultery.
Yeah.
The fourth one is false speech.
No lying.
Thou shalt not. That's the last one. Thou shalt not bear false witness.
Yeah.
All right. And then the last one is abstain from alcoholic drink or drugs that are an opportunity for heedlessness. So in other words, if it's a problem to where like your behavior is being affected, then you should abstain from alcohol or drugs.
This is the one that reading the chapter they cared the least about.
Yeah, of course. It's just it's for those few individuals that overdo it, and then it becomes an issue.
Just don't be alcoholic, but you can still drink or have drugs. Just don't overdo it.
Exactly. In societies where Buddhism is the dominant religion, they become broadly expected norms for people to seek to live by. I mean, once again, the first four, those are biblical things. You know, I mean, this is it doesn't take a lot for you to say don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery, and don't speak bad about others. I mean, those are kind of basic societal norms, not even in Buddhist countries. I mean, the way they make it sound here is like, oh, they're over there, they're so much more enlightened and so much more well-behaved than the West, you know?
Like, realistically, even all the first four, at least, is just, well, the first three, I suppose, are their laws in general in most countries. You can't kill anyone.
You can't steal. Yeah, you go to jail.
And then three, like if you take in the extreme, you can't rape anyone, or else you go to jail.
Exactly. If you go that far, the rape, then you go to jail. Yeah. Or if you have multiple wives.
Yeah, which is another one.
Mormons had to throw there. And then obviously false speech, you can go to jail for that if you give a deposition and then you lie or whatever, you know. And then, of course, if you're walking around or driving drunk, or you can go to jail for that one as well. So, moreover, while the taking of the precepts by ritually chanting them can be done, you're going to love this one, can be done by a layperson at any time, they are frequently taken by chanting them after a monk who fulfills the role of administering them. So it's once again, you always need a middleman.
Yeah.
In Catholicism, you got the priest. You know, you go to him. You don't go to God, or you could pray to Mary, but no. Jesus is too busy. He can't answer your thing. Here is the layperson can do it, but realistically, the monk is the one that does it. In Southern Buddhism, the 5 precepts are chanted at most ceremonies and often on a daily basis. The precepts taken consist of commitment to the 3 refuges, the 3 pure precepts, cease from evil, do only good, do good for others. Those are the 3 refuges. And the 10 great precepts that began the 58 bodhisattva precepts. It's once again, you see how they it's jargon, because everybody wrote a book and then now that's in the Bible. And basically those are not taking or selling drugs or alcohol, not speaking against others, not praising oneself and abusing others, not being mean and giving dharma or wealth, not being angry, and not defaming the 3 jewels. So the 3 jewels, you guys will remember from the first episode, that is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So that's what that is. Now, in regards to the first precept, this is the one that they really spilled a lot of ink on this one. The first precept, regarded as the most important, is the resolution not to intentionally kill any human, animal, bird, fish, or insect. The word for living being in the precept literally means a breather. Okay, so so I guess this doesn't apply to the blades of grass.
The grass.
Okay, so
they're vegetarian, so
they're
vegetarian, so they would have to.
No, but the blade of grass can that's Hinduism.
Yeah.
That they have a self. But you can, in Buddhism, you could be a blade of grass, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Independent of that. While this has not meant that most Buddhists have been pacifists, pacifism has been the ideal. In other words, do no evil, do no harm. That's basically what a pacifist is. While the wrong livelihood of trade in arms refers to the armed salesman and not the soldier, a person who makes his living as a soldier and who dies in battle is said to be reborn in a hell or as an animal.
So no patriotism for them.
They have no armies, I guess. Yeah. There's no Buddhist armies. So in other words, the guy that sells the guns, he's all right. The guy that goes and sacrifices his life for his country and goes to war and kills, that guy is the bad guy.
Yeah.
Completely warped view. Huh? I mean, it's just like, oh man, I wonder, do they do special prayers like now for all these wars that are going on? Like, do they do chanting?
Maybe.
Like, I wonder if the Dalai Lama's gone to the front lines in Ukraine just to see, try to see if.
I guess they expect everyone to be like Andrew Garfield and Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah,
Just no
exactly.
shooting or anything.
Yeah.
Just only saving people.
Saving people, yeah. That's a good movie. It is emphasized that war is inconclusive and futile. Victory breeds enmity. The defeated one sleeps badly. The peaceful one sleeps at ease, having abandoned victory and defeat. The slayer gets a slayer in his turn. The conqueror gets one who conquers him. So it's basically, I mean, it's not wrong philosophically. Well, I just think that you can't broad stroke it and say that, wars are not necessary.
I feel like that's unsatisfying to say and kind of not offensive, but like realistically, like World War II is unnecessary and futile. And like Hitler was, even outside of the killing of the Jews, Hitler was going to try to take over the world and try to create a world government eventually.
Yeah, the axis of evil, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's futile and inconclusive and shouldn't be a war.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, what would be the Buddhist response to Hitler?
Yeah.
Like what would they say? Okay, was it a necessary evil for the United States to get involved and land over there in France? And then they also got involved over there with the Pearl Harbor incident with the Japanese. At what point is it acceptable or not to defend oneself?
Yeah.
Because the United States didn't start that. The Japanese are the ones that came in and they bombed the Pearl Harbor. So, okay, now we got to go fight them, or do we just allow those 2,000 people that died in Pearl Harbor and just say, it's all right, man.
Yeah.
Just we'll move on. But then, of course, how do you stop a man like Hitler without war? I mean, seriously, like was it the previous Dalai Lama? Was he unsuccessful in his conferences with Hitler? I just don't understand how you can justify this. This is good ideology, but once again, this is ideology in one of those unicorn rainbow worlds that
exactly.
people, they want to create a worldview where everybody is nice and everybody behaves well and everyone gives and everyone treats others well and there's no murdering, there's no killing, there's no Buffalo Wild Wings, there's none of this stuff. But then at the same time, that ideology, how do you superimpose that ideology into people that have completely different worldviews? Mm. Like, I have a worldview that I know that these wars are necessary. And the reason why is because they're in the Bible. And the Bible tells me everything that's going on right now. The Bible tells me what Trump is doing right now with this board of peace. That may be what the Bible talks about. Not that Trump is the Antichrist, but someone from the organization. It may be a group of 10 of the countries that come together and they form like a super board of peace. And then they announce peace and peace and peace. And then guess what? Most of the countries that sign up are Muslim countries, coincidentally. So then what happens now when they say, oh, yeah, we're going to be peace, peace. And then we'll even give you the Temple Mount so you could rebuild the third temple. And then they give them peace and peace. And then suddenly out of nowhere, at the midway point, they all turn their backs on him, and now the Muslims go and this board of peace now becomes the board of war, So yeah, so once again, once you have these world views, it really leads you down a path where that's cute for you, but it's not realistic in terms of the world. Yeah. Because not everybody sees things through your lens, Most lay Buddhists have been prepared to break the first precept in self-defense, though, and may have helped defend the community. Okay, so some if you, once again, defense. We're just literally talking about that. In Thailand, the army is well respected for its role in serving and helping to run the country. The history of Buddhist countries has not been free of wars, and sometimes Buddhist sects have fought each other. As in a previous chapter, they talk about that. The communal strife, which erupted in Sri Lanka in 1983, pitting sections of the minority Tamil, mainly Hindu, and Sinhalese, mainly Buddhist, populations against each other, and leading to armed conflict lasting until, get this, 2009. I mean, that was a very long war.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, shows that Buddhists are not immune from letting communalism make them forget some of their principles. So, in other words, the ideology is cute, but when it gets real, the ideology goes down the drain.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's only in the ideologically perfect worldview that they have where everyone behaves well. But the minute that there is a need for a defense, okay, yeah, we need to put aside this first one, and because if it's either kill or be killed, and at that point the first precept's out the door. I wonder if during war if they eat meat. Since they're already breaking the law, right? The precept. I know it sounds stupid, but like, for instance, if I'm a soldier in a war and I am being told by my leaders, you got to kill. At that point, I'm like, well, this might be a good time to try chicken. Let's just see. The whole world talks about it, you know? While Buddhism has no real objection to contraception, now we're talking about abortion.
Yeah.
Abortion is seen as breaking the first precept as it cuts off a precious human rebirth. See, what happens? Okay, look. What happens to because they don't believe in the self. I wonder if we talked about this during Hinduism.
No, we didn't. Not like this.
Yeah, like for instance, do they get the self at conception, or does the self come in like at birth? Because if the self, the soul, come, like we believe it comes in at conception, because that's what the Bible tells us. But if they believe in that, what happens to the woman that has an abortion after, let's just say 2-3 months? What happens to that self? Like, that self dead, or does he just float back into Brahman and then he comes back as another thing? I have no idea. The bad karma from an abortion is often seen to vary according to the age of the fetus, as it involves killing a being with whom the mother has a more developed relationship and requires more forceful means. But most Buddhists would accept abortion to save the mother's life. In secularizing post-war Japan, abortion has been quite common, but many women have felt the need to atone for their deed by caring for the spirit of their aborted child through the cult of Bodhisattva Jizo, interesting name, in the ritual known as Mizuko Kuyo. So in other words, the mother that has the abortion, she cares for the spirit of the aborted child through some sort of ritual that they do. Suicide, again, wastes a precious human rebirth, and the suffering instigating it seen as probably set to continue unabated and intensified into the next, perhaps subhuman rebirth. So yeah, so if you commit suicide, your next life, you're going to be lower, you know, you're going to be lower off, you know? So that's just something for y'all to think about, especially in those countries. You know, I mean, I personally, like if I was over there and then I was suffering from depression and I committed suicide, I would think twice because I might come back as a goldfish. And then at that point, that's no fun. So I wonder if there's different degrees of like the animals. Like, for instance, is a lion like a better than like a mosquito?
Well, I think he kind of talks about that in this next bit.
It does? Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah. I did read it.
Almost like a ranking to animals.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Let's talk. Yeah. I remember because I laughed at that one. Right livelihood rules out trade in flesh, seen as including the butcher, hunter, and fisherman. See, that is why those are called the untouchables. You know, those are the ones that like, you know, because they deal with all of that. Those are jobs which no committed Buddhist would carry out. In Buddhist societies, butchers are usually non-Buddhists, for example, Muslims, and are seen as depraved or as outcast. Not just because of their belief, but also because they cut up meat. The position that meat is acceptable if someone else kills the animal is not necessarily an easy get out clause. It is a valid position, though, when you think about it. You did not kill the animal. You are purchasing the animal that has been killed by somebody else. Mm-hmm. So would that still be, it would not be killing. See, now it goes from killing to purchasing. But then there's a double-edged standard there. because they just said that the guy that sells guns is okay, but the guy that shoots is the bad one.
Yeah.
So the guy that kills the animal, but then why can't you just go to Walmart and buy a chicken or what? Okay. Buddhist countries lack the mass slaughterhouses of the West, which would be seen as hells on earth. Can you imagine those animals? I mean, they are kind of filthy and animal. I mean, they are. I've seen videos. That's what caused us to go to being vegan, vegetarian for a little while there. But then we went to Hawaii and ate fish, and then that's it. We never got back. In Southern Buddhism, while only a few are vegetarian, this is universally admired, and most people have an uneasy conscience when they think about meat eating. In general, it is seen as worse to eat the flesh of an animal at a higher level of existence. So in other words, it is worse to eat beef in Burma. It was once a crime to kill a cow. It is less bad to eat goats or fowl, and even less bad than that to eat eggs, and least bad to eat fish, which is the most common form of flesh eaten. Most people catch their own fish, but those who make a living by fishing are looked down upon in society. So in other words, you can go fish and you're cool, but the guy that goes out to fish and sell you fish, that guy's bad.
Yeah.
Once again, these double standards are so dumb. So in other words, see, they didn't really rank the animals like the way I wanted it ranked. They kind of did this like it's the worst thing that you can do is eat a cow, but it's still bad, but it's not as bad to eat a goat. And it's less bad to eat an egg. So go eat your omelet if you feel like it. And the least is the fish. So in other words, they really, for them, fish are nothing. They don't really care about that whole thing. So yeah, that's the first precept. That there are different views. There's a lot more, just so you know. But once again, I can't read everything. It's just too much.
And then now the first precept was like you said, a whole bunch of information just kind of compiled into a little mini chapter. Now it's all the other precepts are kind of just in one section here. And it starts off with the second one, which is no thievery, no stealing things. So I may kind of read
okay. Yeah, the second precept is seen as ruling out any act of theft, but also fraud, cheating, borrowing without the intention to return, and taking more than one's due. Often gambling is also included. Okay, I mean, I guess all of that makes perfect sense. The precept clearly has relevance for the production and use of wealth. The ideal here is that one's wealth should be made in a moral way, which does not cheat or harm others. It should be used to give ease and pleasure to oneself and one's family, to share with others, and to generate karmic fruitfulness. I always love it when they say that. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's a very broad view. A very broad view that you as a Buddhist, you should be pious and you should make your money in an honest way. Go out there and do work. Don't gamble. Don't cheat. Don't borrow money and know that you're not going to return it. Don't go out and get a credit card, max it out, and never pay it. Those are the things that you should just be mindful. And then of course they always flip it, and they say it'll give ease and pleasure to oneself and one's family. I don't think your 2-year-old daughter knows or cares that you got that money from whichever which way, but all right. But I guess it'll make her easy. It'll give her ease.
The next one is, as we mentioned before, causing suffering from sexual behavior. So it's kind of like just everything that is immoral about having sex outside of marriage, I suppose.
Exactly. Maybe even inside. Let's see. Yeah. The third precept primarily concerns avoiding causing suffering by one's sexual behavior. This includes adultery, incest, any enforced intercourse, and intercourse with those married or engaged to another or under the protection of relatives. What counts as adultery varies according to the marriage patterns of different cultures, and Buddhism has been flexible in adapting to these. So in other words, adultery, it depends on which culture we're talking about, and then Buddhism has been flexible.
It's already like kind of just a red flag for me, in the sense that these precepts are things you should be living by.
Yes. Yes.
But now we're flexible when it comes to not living about the precepts.
Exactly. Like for instance, if they get attacked, then they go to war. So then it's okay. If their country there's some sort of adultery that's accepted, oh, we'll be flexible with that one. I mean, just once again, they're not being consistent. While monogamy is preferred and the predominant pattern, it also has tolerated polygamy and sometimes polyandry. Premarital sex has been regarded as a breach of the precept in some cultures, but not in others. Flirting with a married woman may also be seen as a breach. Homosexual activity is rarely specified among activities breaking the lay precepts. Okay. Yeah. So in other words, they want, okay, they're flexible on adultery depending on the culture. But they obviously prefer, a very much a monogamy, which that's exactly where we're at. But then when it comes to premarital sex, they say that's no good, no bueno. But then when they say homosexual activities, they don't really take a position on that. I mean, wouldn't that, you should kind of take a position if you're talking about sexual activity and sexual behavior, unless you don't consider homosexual activity to be something wrong.
It's funny, the next bit, though a kind of person known as a pandaka.
Yeah, go ahead, read it.
Pandaka, which seems to mean one born as a non-normative male or a homosexual, especially a passive homosexual. It is seen as unable to experience certain deep meditative states. So basically, you can't be a spiritual if you're gay.
Ooh, so you have, So in other words, okay. See, this is where the questions come in. The dude that's gay or the girl that's a lesbian, they don't have a self. So in other words, they're only gay in this life.
I guess.
In their next life, they'll be something else, right? I mean,
maybe their karmic bank account is lower because they weren't able to be a spiritual.
So then they'll come back as an animal or some worse situation. Yeah. Instead of being like a gay with an apartment, he'll be a straight guy living on the street or whatever. Okay. So, wow. Okay. So they don't have a problem with homosexual activity, but they do say that, that he cannot experience deep meditative states. Why?
It doesn't make much sense either.
It doesn't, but they don't tell you why. Like, why can't the gay guy go into deeper meditative states?
If it's not a sin or anything immoral to them, why does it matter?
Exactly. See, this is another one that they throw it out there, and then boom. What do you want me to do? So the first three precepts concern physical action, and keeping them is the right action factor of the 8-factored path or the eightfold path. So. That's the third one. Yeah, I read the first. I read the first sentence of that.
Okay, yeah. And then the fourth precept, while it refers to false speech, is equivalent to the 4 aspects of the eightfold path or whatever of right speech.
Yeah.
So they say is generally seen as the second most important one. Mm-hmm. So I guess lying and being honest is very important to them in their cultures.
Yeah, because the first 3 deal with the action. It falls into the right action category of the eightfold path. This one falls into the false speech or right speech of the path. So this precept is generally seen as the second most important one, for it is said to that a person who has no shame at intentional lying is capable of any evil action. Yeah, we can logically deduce that a dude that lies can do anything evil. He could murder. Why? Because he lied. Any form of lying or deception, either for one's own benefit or that of another, is seen as a breach of the precept, though a small... Read that sentence.
Though a small white lie, for example, is much less serious than lying in a court of law.
Okay, but is it a lie?
Yeah.
So is it right speech?
No.
Independent if it's a white lie. Remember the kid with the cookie jar with the cookie crumbs on his face, or someone in a court of law lying about somebody else being a murderer, independent of the way you look at each lie. See, now they're trying to justify or qualify. Well, that's just a little white lie. It's not that bad. It isn't as bad as a major lie, you know? Once again, they're trying to qualify things that really shouldn't be qualified. But you know what? This is what the devil does.
I think that's where you see the main difference is that we say a lie is a lie and it's sin and you shouldn't do it.
That's it. Any lie.
Like realistically, obviously, there's logical, like, oh, if you lie in the court of law and you get away with it, that's obviously more important in your life than like whatever saying, like, I didn't eat that and I did eat it.
Exactly.
But still, a lie is a lie.
At the end of the day, it's a sin.
Yeah.
Independent of if it's like you said, a huge lie or a small lie, it is an act of sin. So.
And then the fifth one is talking about more the right mindfulness.
Yeah. This is the
talking
alcohol
about
one.
not being intoxicated. So they essentially say their claim is you should always be in the right mind and not like openly just loose in the way you're acting.
Exactly. Yeah. And in intoxicated states, lacking mental clarity or calm, one is also more likely to break the other precepts. Certainly, the wish to avoid life sufferings by indulging in a false happiness is best avoided. Buddhism is not puritanical in such matters. Unlike some Muslim countries, no Buddhist country bans the sale or consumption of alcohol. Nevertheless, making a living by its sale is a wrong livelihood. So you probably won't see many Buddhist liquor store shops that owned by a Buddhist. So
there's one I kind of agree with, I guess, in general.
Yeah.
But it's also like a simple one, almost a common sense one, like don't be an alcoholic.
Exactly, or more than anything, don't cause suffering to others due to your consumption.
Exactly.
You know, if it's causing suffering in your home, if it's causing suffering to your family, if it's causing suffering your workplace, whatever it may be, that's really where you got to figure out and address it.
So this next bit is kind of talking about like.
By the way, my wife brought out a model of the Ark of the Covenant. This is the Ark of the Covenant of the Old Testament. This is where Moses and Aaron would have been part of that at the beginning in the Levitical priesthood. Just so you know that this is a covenant. This is a structure that is representative of the covenant that God, the true God, made with the people of Israel, of the Jews. And it is the same God, the real God, the true God, that came down in the form of Jesus Christ. And he instituted the last covenant, which is the covenant in his blood, which is something that we commemorate every time we take the Lord's table. But in other words, this is representative of a real God that does real covenants with people. Unlike false gods, false prophets, false teachers that offer falsehood, we believe in the truth. Okay, I had to say that.
A little history lesson. What's in the box?
Yeah. What's in the box? Oh yeah, is it in there?
Oh, is it actually?
Yeah, I bought it from Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got the 10 Commandments. You got the jar with the manna, holding the manna, and then you have the rod of Aaron that is budded with flowers. So yeah, that's what we got here.
You caught me last time with the rod of Aaron because I forgot, and then now I can't forget it.
Yeah, because I always think staff, rod. You know, it's like those two words. I always in my brain like I get them jumbled up. All right, so. We're moving to this next one. Did you introduce it?
No, not yet. It's I guess it's kind of just saying the opposites of all these precepts, and it's saying the positive implications. So basically, if you follow them, the good things that come from it.
Yeah, exactly. The precepts are negative. Yeah. Don't do this. Don't kill. Don't do that. Don't talk bad about others. Don't do sexually immoral things. This is what they say. These are the positive effects of what if you do not do those other things, and then you chant them every single day. I will not kill. I will not lie. I will not cheat. Okay. These are the rewards, in other words, that you're gained. You know, this is the outcome. So what are they? Each precept has a positive counterpart. Kindness and compassion, gentle and kindly, he abided compassionate to all living beings. That is from one of their books. So in other words, the opposite of murdering is kindness and compassion. The opposite of stealing is generosity and renunciation. The opposite of sexual immorality is joyous satisfaction with one's own wife, contentment and fewness of wishes. I don't know what fewness of wishes is. In other words, not wishing for more.
Urges, okay, I guess.
The next one is loving truth. This is about you lying or about you testifying badly. Loving truth by searching it out, recognizing falsity, and attaining precision of thought. And then concerning the alcohol piece, mindfulness and clear awareness. Contentment is seen as the greatest of wealths. So in other words, for the Buddhists, being content is probably the greatest thing that you can achieve because you have completely become you become happy with what you have, you know. And we in the Christianity, it's the same way that we always say, be content with what the Lord is giving you. But within Hinduism, that is probably the greatest thing, is to just be content. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those were the precepts, and that's very important to their theology. And then they tell you what are the positives of it. You know, where you could be content, be happy, don't cheat on your wife, be happy, be content with your wife, don't murder. All of your actions should be through kindness and compassion. Don't steal. That you should be more giving. And so it's once again, it's just taking well-known sinful behaviors and saying, okay, you should do this. The Bible's clear on this too. Yeah. I mean, we have, first of all, the 10 Commandments, but if you go to the books of Paul, the letters of Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit, and he talks about there's a lot that does jive with this lingo. The problem with this lingo is that it's all you, and it has nothing to do with something greater than you. Yeah. So
I think one argument that you could not make for them, but that it does jive with us, is that it points to a higher being giving an objective morality to humanity.
Exactly.
Rather than the atheist will say anything is subjective, you just kind of do what you want.
Exactly.
So
yeah, like in other words, the Buddha supposedly had these enlightenments and these thoughts and all of that, but those are thoughts that have to have an origination within something greater than a man, because a man, unless he's just so incredibly out there, but man is in their nature is in sin. So even if you get enlightened, it really all of this points to there is something just within. If you want to call him God, if you want to call him in Hindu, you want to call him Brahman, if you want to call him Allah, okay. Just the verbiage tells you that there must be something greater, supreme, that is just and righteous in order for you to be able to have these ideas. So. Mm-hmm.
We skipped over a lot of bits here.
Yeah, because I didn't highlight them.
Yeah. And then we go to the care for the dying and the dead, which I thought was a interesting read. I didn't expect this going after all of that into this.
Okay.
Essentially, they say, or they have this practice where, as someone is dying and passes away, that they care for them and they chant to the dead person. Yeah. To make sure they pass on into the next life.
Look up to see if there's a Buddhist funeral chanting. I always love those things. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start reading it. All right. Compassionate help for others is no less important in death than in life, according to Buddhism. As death approaches, it is the duty of relatives and friends to help a person have a good death. For in a rebirth perspective, death is the most important and problematic life crisis. The idea. Did you find something? You got the volume up? Oh yeah, funeral chanting. Cool. We're gonna since we're, are they dancing or something?
It's just a picture. It's not a video.
Oh, is this a picture? Okay.
There's some
Yeah,
Japanese.
oh, that's in Japanese?
No, but there's a playlist here for Japanese Buddhist chanting.
Let's see if Japanese Buddhist chanting is different. Ooh, the bell.
Oh, it starts with a bell.
Yeah, cool.
With the gong.
Yeah. Bong. Almost sounds Arabic.
It's like Japanese wording.
That's a good beat though. Good rhythm.
Yeah. This one's drumming.
Oh, I love drums. Ooh.
Oh. It has like
I wonder
samurai
if the tempo. Oh, I wonder if the temple here has a percussion section.
maybe. That sounds pretty
Like,
epic.
look, I'm not gonna lie. If I was a Buddhist, I'd want to that. Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like it's cool. It sounds cool. And look, they sound like they got those wooden sticks that clink, 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 clink. Oh, they got little like ding, 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 ding.
Well, they got a dude riding pigs.
Oh, look at that dude with pigs, with a whole bunch of pig heads. No, they're like a boar, like a wild boar,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
The Japanese one is pretty epic sounding.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The Japanese one was cool. All right, so it is the ideal is to die in a calm, aware state, joyfully recollecting previous good deeds rather than regretting them, so that the best possible rebirth is obtained. So in other words, don't say anything negative about the dude that just died. It might mess up his rebirth.
I mean,
Within the limits set by previous karma, obviously, it depends on it. It isn't just, it's his previous karma also plays into that. Active or passive euthanasia is not supported, though it is acceptable for a person to refuse treatment when it comes too expensive or oppressive. So in other words, they don't believe in euthanasia, but if you have stage 4 cancer with 3 months to live, what's the point of getting your treatments? At that point. In Southern Buddhism, funerals by cremation may have an almost festival atmosphere, and grief is seldom shown unless the death was especially untimely or tragic. Karmic fruitfulness is shared with the deceased, and so you get to throw in from your bank account into his bank account. And it is a subsequent memorial service. At these, water is poured into a bowl until it overflows, and monks chant a verse which says that just as water flows downwards, so may what is given here reach the departed. Okay, sure. In Northern Buddhism, a dying or recently dead person will have the Bardo Thodo, commonly known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, read to him. This is to guide him through the experiences of 49 days between lives to help overcome lingering attachment to his body and family, or even gain a liberating insight. So they believe that there's a 7-week hiatus there between when you die and then your karmic forces going and reincarnating into a new thing. In Eastern Buddhism, a dying person may hold strings attached to the hands in a painting of Amitabha. This is to help him die peacefully with the thought of being drawn to Amitabha's pure land. Chinese Buddhists have monks carry out rites for the dead a number of times the 49 days between lives period, and memorial rites are subsequently performed. So yeah, so what we learned is that they do a whole, depending on your northern, southern, or eastern, they have different views, different philosophies, but it's basically honoring the dead and making sure that they have a good rebirth 49 days later.
Which makes sense, I guess.
It's just so dumb. It's just dumb.
I wonder why regretting anything makes you have like a worse rebirth. When you would think it's like your actual actions, not the mindset of it.
Well, it's because remember, everything is about getting rid of suffering, and regrets are ultimately suffering, and then, you know.
I guess. So now we go into the next chapter, and we start with the Buddhist practice of the Sangha, which, as we were talking about before, is the communion and the group of people that are practicing Buddhism together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Buddha is said to have affirmed that he would not die until he had disciples who were monks and nuns, laymen and lay women, who could teach Dharma and establish it, expound it, analyze it, make it clear. These groups are known as the Four Assemblies. The term Sangha, or community, refers in its highest sense to the noble Sangha of those monastic or lay who are fully or partially enlightened. So basically, when this is now really where it goes heavy into the monks and nuns, just so you know, this chapter. The Buddha valued self-reliance and left the monastic Sangha as a community of individuals sharing a life under the guidance of Dharma and Vinaya. The job of its members is to strive for their own spiritual development and use their knowledge and experience of Dharma to guide others. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the role within the Sangha of the monks and the nuns. And, you know, originally the Buddha, he had this thing where he wanted disciples that were monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen. So in other words, it isn't just the dudes and the women that you see at the temples. It is also just the commoner, the lay, Buddhist person, to be able to learn from the texts and to be able to give it. It is much the same way that we have a structure in Christianity, where we have pastors and we have teachers, and then we have the church parishioners, the people that go to church. But at the end of the day, all of us are commanded to go out and preach the gospel. That is the Great Commission of Matthew chapter 28. So in a sense, it's the same exact thing that we have within our Christianity. So, yeah.
Next, it goes more into the role of monasticism. So specifically the monks and the monasteries in particular over the lay women and all that.
Yeah, after we get through this, we really got to go to that temple. You know what? Next time you're off, we'll go. We'll go just quick, like 10 minutes, you know, just go say what's up. Hopefully we don't go during lunchtime and then they're out. I don't know. Or maybe they'll give us food.
You think they have an hour off or whatever?
I don't know. Their hours of operation weren't clearly posted. They just said 9 to 5. Okay. I would like to get there at 9 o'clock to see if they do like a morning ritual. Like, do they do they pour water on the eyes of Buddha, the statue, or whatever, the shrine? I don't know. Members of the monastic Sangha have probably constituted. Sometimes I just gotta get that word wrong. Constituted the most numerous clergy in the world. The simplest monastic life, however, is designed to have few distractions so that there is less opportunity to ignore greed, hatred, and delusion, and thus more opportunity to work at diminishing them and to guide others in doing so. Most monks and nuns seek to do this, though a few do not take to monastic life as a lazy way of making a living. As regards being selfish, the whole aim of monastic life is to help diminish attachment to the self and its consequent desires and aversions. So in other words, for those haters out there that say, oh, you became a monk just because you didn't want to go and get a real job. They basically say that no, it is that their role is very important within the community. That they provide a service, that they guide people, that they allow them, that they're there for them, to counsel them, to be there for them in death and in different festivals, marriages, weddings. Once again, much the same way a local pastor would be to his congregation. It is not a lazy thing. It is something that they take so that they could relieve themselves from the attachments of this world, and then focus more heavily on their detachments. And then through that, they can then help out others within the community, the Sangha, to be able to receive their enlightenment.
I think the closest comparison to how a monk would be like treated and act would be like a Catholic priest, right?
Probably, yeah.
No wife, no attachment to the world. Just like their only job is to be a priest.
Exactly. Yeah. See, I don't know if the Buddhists have like an organization. Like for instance, the Southern Baptist of America, the Catholic Church, all of them, and then you fall under them. Or are Buddhist temples, are they just kind of like our church, like a simple independent local church, no affiliation with anybody? No, I don't know. I was wondering, like, in other words, can anybody just be ordained? Or is it like you got to go through some certain prerequisites?
Well, that's the next aspect, is how to be ordained into the monasteries.
Yeah, I know, but I think this kind of didn't really give me a nice, clear answer on that. Yeah. All right, but let's see. So you want to talk about this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're at 51. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we still got time. Okay. Entry into the monastic Sangha is by 2 stages. From the age of 7 or 8, a child can take the lower ordination, or going forth so as to become a samanera, or a novice, basically a novice. These undertake the 10 precepts. When aged 20 from conception, a person can take the higher ordination or admission. Once ordained, even as a novice, head hair is shaved off as a sign of renunciation of vanity. Chinese monks and nuns are also identified by small scars made by burning incense cones on the scalp of an offering to the Buddha. Monastic robes are also worn, orange, yellow, or orangey brown in Southern Buddhism, russet red in Northern Buddhism. That's why the Dalai Lama, his is always like a dark red, and usually gray in China and Korea, and generally black in Japan. So yeah, the Buddhist that I saw, the pictures that I saw of the Buddhism, one of them, they were orangey, so they're Southern, so they're Theravada. However, I did see a picture in the other one where they were like gold. They were wearing gold, and all of the women were wearing gray. Yeah, so I wasn't sure about that one.
Well, Southern Buddhism says yellow.
Where?
Orange, yellow, or orange.
Okay, orange, yellow. Okay, yeah, so yeah, they were very goldish. Yeah. Candidates for higher ordination should be free of impediments such as contagious disease, debt, or recent crime, and have the permission of parents if under 20, and usually of a spouse if married. They may also need to be able to read, write, and chant a few simple texts. So they need to be able to read, write, and chant a few simple texts. That's all you really need.
Yeah, it's not much.
You don't need any full, they could take anybody off the street. To ordain a monk, a quorum of 5 validly ordained monks is required, whose authority to ordain is seen as flowing through the unbroken monastic tradition from the Buddha. At ordination, the candidate takes the lower ordination, if he has not already done so, and then commits himself to over 200 training rules. 200 rules. What the heck? In the predominantly Mantranaya, which is the Northern Buddhism, the Dalai Lama tradition, is generally a monk or nun of long standing or special charisma. like the Dalai Lama right now. He has a lot of charisma. He goes around. But a lay person accomplished in meditation or tantric rituals may also be such a revered teacher. Tibetan Buddhism, the Dalai Lama, his school, has a particularly rich range of religious personnel who may be, number one, a monk who has the full ordination. Some are great scholars. They also have a monk or nun who follows the lower novice ordination of 36 precepts. Those are terms which cover both the first categories and for the monks and the nuns. You also have a monastic or a lay lama, some of whom are seen as trokas. I don't know what that word means. You also have a man or woman who has taken the lay precepts so as to be a teacher and who lives in a monastery. You also have non-ordained ascetic yogas. You also have village tantric priests. And you also have scripture readers. So in other words, aside from Tibetan Buddhism, normal Buddhism, like the Theravada, that we have here in Homestead, they're just a monk and a nun there. They teach and they chant and they do that. But within Tibetan, they have a lot of different. It's almost like if you say, oh, we have pastors, co-pastors, deacons, teachers, prophets, blah, 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 blah. So they kind of have a whole other section. It isn't just that you are a monk. You could be something else besides being a monk.
Yeah. And the next part of this is talking about nuns in particular. And it starts off with just kind of the history of what the Buddhist nuns were and how they came to be in this religion. Because at that time, obviously, it was like, 2,500 years ago now?
Yeah.
Not popular for women to be in high religious roles, even in Judaism and all these, like, I guess the Greek and the Roman ones, just because like there were some goddesses, so they probably had a higher view, but in these Eastern religions, not very highly looked upon.
Yeah. But I mean, he did allow for nuns, you know. Yeah. So I mean, at some point, I guess he didn't fully, just like the Jews, they completely, you know, and the Muslims, they completely suppressed the women. The Jewish women are not allowed to pray in the same side as the Jewish men. Obviously, not progressive Judaism. It's not like that. Everybody sits together. Everybody prays together. Yeah. But the Orthodox, they're very much like that, and so are the Muslims. You know, the women do not pray in the same hall as the men in Islam. Okay, so about nuns. In Indian society of the Buddha's day, there were a few women ascetics and freelance debaters, but the ordination of women was a relative innovation, which was what you were just saying. Indeed, the Buddha had reservations on this, probably due to social pressures against putting women in a respected position, the potential vulnerability of women following a wandering life, and the possibility of accusations of sexual relationships between monks and nuns. All of those are valid reasons. However, it is said that he agreed to the repeated requests for ordination of his widowed foster stepmother when his faithful attendant monk Ananda asked him if women were capable of becoming stream enterers. On agreeing that they were, he instituted this within the Sangha. This, though, was on condition that the nuns observed 8 special rules, such as that a nun should always respectfully bow to a monk, however junior he may be. So we're okay with having nuns, but at the end of the day, you're lower, even to like the teenage young monk. If he is an ordained monk, you always bow to him. Other rules made the nuns dependent on the monks for many of their ceremonies, including ordination, to ensure that their Sangha would develop as a sound spiritual community, fully independent of lay society. So that's their view of nuns. They do allow for nuns, for women to be nuns. You know, so it's just one of those things where of course you could say, well, you know, we might have a trouble. There might be slander. There might be gossip. There might be, people might think, oh, they're having sex with one another. But independent of that, they do allow. I guess for the time, he was very progressive in allowing women to have these roles within the religion. But yeah, that's what they do have nuns. In other words, you go to a Jewish temple, you're gonna see the dude there, but then they also have the women. So
there isn't too much more that you have highlighted here.
Okay.
So we could either cut it now and just finish it next week, or we could go a bit longer today, like an hour and a half today.
Trying to see.
Like, it's a lot of gaps, but it isn't a ton that's actually highlighted.
Yeah, because you know what, it still goes on and on about the monks and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to do chapter 11. Okay. Yeah, if you want, we could just end it now.
Okay. So yeah, this time we were mostly talking, obviously, about the more actual theological and philosophical aspects of this and the systematic beliefs. So I think that is more insightful than some of the other episodes have been, obviously, just because it is what they actually practice in their everyday lives.
Yeah.
And obviously all that stuff we were talking about, the morality, this isn't just like a general rule of life. They chant these things every single day before they start their day. This is how they live their life.
This is what they do then when they wake up.
Mm-hmm. And then they go on to just, it doesn't matter. You could still fish for your own stuff, even if it's killing.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, some of it contradicts the other stuff, but look, at the end of the day, it's all false anyway.
Yeah.
Just because they think it's true, I know it's false. So, ultimately, I'm just going to say what they believe, and then I'm going to find the gaps. I'm going to find the holes, and I'm going to say, hey, this is a hole. This is a gap. Why? Why is this here? What is the answer to this? What is the answer to that? So.
And it's crazy because their gaps and holes, they already just profess it right here in the text.
Yeah.
You didn't have to dig deep or anything. Okay, well, see you guys next week. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you all. God bless you all. Have a blessed week.
Amen.
Amen.
See you guys next week.